Hello and welcome to another episode of Breaking Through in Cybersecurity Marketing. I'm one of your hosts, Gianna Whitfer, here with my what adjective should we use today?
Oh gosh, I think we've heard all the adjectives. I think everybody already knows. I'm the awesome co-host, Maria Velasquez.
There we go. There we go. Short and sweet. And we have an equally awesome guest today. Today we have Geordie Carswell, Chief Marketing Officer of ActualTech Media. Thank you so much for being on, Geordie.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah. And tell us, before we get into our topic and our discussion today, which will be fun because we have 3 demand gen marketers and we're going to do a lead gen jam. Before we get into that, tell us, what is ActualTech Media? What do you guys do?
Yeah, so for about 10 years, ActualTech's done lead gen and content creation for the enterprise tech space. So everything from cybersecurity down to cloud to DevOps to a number of different niches beyond that. But our specialty is in using webinars for lead generation, but we also do all kinds of other sources like appointment setting, content syndication, a ton of different mechanisms, whatever it takes to get lead gen done.
And I think one of the things that we're doing together, because you are sponsoring and speaking at Cyber Marketing Con this year, and I'm so excited to meet you for the first time in person in Austin in December. One of the other things that you do is surveys, and we're doing a joint survey on buying behaviors of cybersecurity buyers. So tell us a little bit more about the surveys you do.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be exciting. I think we've got an audience of US-based cybersecurity and InfoSec professionals, and we thought it would be cool to go out to them and ask them a number of questions about all the different buckets of cybersecurity and where they stand, what their plans are, what their needs are, what their concerns are, but also talk about who it is in their organization that is involved in buying decisions, how their purchase cycles work, how they evaluate vendors, all of these different things that I think will be useful for the members and should put together an interesting presentation in Austin.
We can't wait for that. That's going to be really exciting. That's the juicy stuff that is always what I want to know. Like, how do you buy? Like, how big is your team? Like, what do you care about? So that I can figure out a way to fit my product into those priorities. So that'll be really cool.
Geordie, among the services, obviously, and your products that you offer cybersecurity vendors, what have you seen in terms of trends across a lot of the budget changes in the last year, 2 years, I want to say? I mean, things have been a little bit crazy and hectic in our industry, and a lot of us marketers have been asked to pull back on spend and make that tough decision of which channels and what actually gets cut, or being just a little bit more wise with spending. What are you seeing on your end? What are the biggest changes?
Yeah, so we work with around 250 or so vendor clients. And so we see a large spectrum of who's doing what's working, and where people are spending. And I think the number one thing is people are much, much more closely evaluating ROI. So they're looking at, how much pipeline was created from a particular endeavor. It used to be pre-COVID, it was all about how many MQLs could we drive. And now it's all about how much pipeline was generated that can be attributed back to marketing. And of course, that's always a fun exercise to try and make sure everybody gets credit for their efforts. But that's been the big thing. And going into COVID, we were competing in our industry with online events and webinars and so forth for lead gen. We were competing with the budgets that went to trade shows. But then, of course, that all shifted online. We were in the right place at the right time, already having tremendous expertise in online events. And now we're seeing that split again. So people are going back to allocating budget to trade shows, although not at the same scale. Definitely not. Yeah.
Ooh. Interesting. And I think this is an awesome wow. Can I talk today or what? I think this is an awesome segue into our conversation topic, which is lead gen. Because like you just said, in the past, it was all MQLs, which to me is like nebulous in a way. Because what is an MQL? Maria's nodding her head. Maria, what is an MQL?
MQL. In one word.
Yeah, one word, actually. Let's make it hard.
Okay. Distraction.
Oh!
Ooh. Controversial. All right.
Yeah.
That's pretty spicy.
Yeah, it is. So is attribution. Well, we can get into that.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Knife in the gut to everyone who's like on the tail end of their 2-year operations project, right? Oh, she's laughing pretty hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you
Okay.
say? What say you, Geordie, about those two things?
Yeah, so I think there's a place for both, right? I mean, if it depends on the size of your team. If you have a team sitting there that has the ability to follow up on, and by team I mean a sales organization that's big enough to follow up on a ton of volume, then there's a place for that. They're going to need something to do. I think a lot of sales teams are overstaffed when it comes, especially on the BDR side, where they're waiting for something, and then it seems like they're either overstaffed or understaffed. There doesn't seem to be a right sizing of BDR teams or sales organizations from what we see. But yeah, so I think there's a place, and it depends how you're measured, right? If you're in an organization that's a little bit more old school and they still look at measuring you as a marketer based on what you're able to deliver in MQLs this month or this quarter, then you're going to perform to where you're measured, because that's how you keep your job. And I think, but we're seeing that shift. There's very few of those organizations who are at least not doing some kind of a blended model where it has to be, a certain number of MQLs and we expect pipeline from those MQLs. And so that doubles the pressure, right? In terms of trying to get quantity and quality at the same time, which we all know can be extremely difficult.
That's so true. You mentioned quality and you also mentioned balance. And I think that's where you find that balance in not giving too much to SDRs, but giving enough. I think if you actually do hand over good quality leads, then that volume will be pretty balanced. So yeah, I agree with that.
But how do you know what's quality? And then also, right, here's my thing. And I'm talking about the broader anti lead gen sentiment that's all over the place, right? There's a lot of talking heads on LinkedIn who are saying lead gen sucks, everything lead gen sucks. And in one way, I agree with that. Of course, okay, we got emails, and they saw one webinar or downloaded one ebook, who cares, right? They didn't even watch. They were doing their laundry, at the time, and they just had something on in the background. But at the same time, we're still doing webinars, all of us collectively. We're still doing webinars. We're still doing lead gen activities. People still are producing ebooks. People are still doing Gartner reports. So and I'm taking a devil's advocate position here, but is there a way to do lead gen or quote unquote lead gen in a way where it fits inside of demand gen and is part of a bigger thing? Maybe there's just a way to do it better, and everyone's so hooked on what you just said, Geordie, the old school model of we get MQLs because they watched our thing and we hand them over to sales. What's the evolution of this, basically? Oh, I felt like a talking head there.
That was good. That was good.
Yeah, we were both nodding yes, this is
you had me.
We got this.
100%. Okay, so I think about this from the perspective of engaged or not engaged. So when we think about the people, I don't care whether they came in, where they came into the quote unquote funnel. I think what I'm interested in is were they paying attention? So we know, for instance, with webinars, right? You have those who are attending and those who are engaged during a webinar. You have those who just registered and were no-shows and will watch later. That the difference, let's say you complete a webinar, you're looking at the registration report, and you have those who attended live. Those people are far more valuable, though, especially the ones that answered poll questions, the ones that showed they asked a question during the Q&A. The ones who raised their hand to say that they would like a demo, that they would like more information, that they would like, a one sheet, whatever. Those people, where does that fall? Are they in the demand bucket yet? I don't know, but we're going to follow up with them. That's for sure. Provided that they fit the ICP of who we're trying to get to. So I think, obviously we're a little biased with webinars because we run, hundreds of them a year and we see them work month after month. But I think that engagement piece is really hard to come by. And like you talked about white papers, ebooks, things like that. You don't know whether they read it or not, right? You don't know. You can tell, okay, so they submit the form. The form comes back you send out an autoresponder with the link. You can tell whether or not they click through to the asset, but then the traffic drops off and goes nowhere. And so you have no idea, did they read it or not read it? Chances are they were on
nobody
their
read
phone.
it. Nobody ever reads it.
It's tough. It's tough. Right. It's why you go, you talk to some content syndication vendors and you're like, I'd like to use an online landing page rather than a PDF to track, so we can find out what the engagement is and they're like, no, won't do it. Right. It's because they know that, a lot of people aren't reading when they get to that point.
That is true. A fun fact from a marketing ops perspective, if you do house your gated assets, PDFs in your marketing automation platform, you can track how many times it's been accessed and downloaded. In fact, you can actually assign a lead score to it, and that continues to add to that engagement score and give you an indication on whether, the person is reading. I mean, whether they read the entire thing, I don't know, but how many times they've accessed it, maybe
how many times they clicked.
It shows a little bit of, intent, I guess, in the subject or topic.
So you just
provided they're not outsourcing it.
Exactly.
If you're outsourcing it, you don't have them in your CRM, right? And so you're not going to know that.
Right. Correct.
That's funny. If they were outsourcing, it'd be funny if you were outsourcing your ebooks, your ebook reading to other people. Like
I mean, I said this to a couple people about how tough it is being a cybersecurity marketer. I have read, I don't know where I read this, but there was an article where the CISO said, I have rules on my inbox that pick up any email that has ebook or white paper in the subject line or even in the body, and it puts them into this folder, never to be
the ether.
Yeah. Right, exactly.
So you need to say, here's your pamphlet. here's your digest. Maria, I noticed, so you said engagement score, right? So tell us a little bit more about that. How are you using webinars and like tracking and contributing webinars and lead gen with like engagement score? Like, what are you doing? How do you kind of process that?
Yeah. So we scored, registered, didn't show up, and then registered and attended differently. We do actually hand over attendees to SDRs for follow-up right after a webinar. And yes, we still do MQLs. I know that I mentioned that it was a distraction, but we still use it because it is one of those it's one of my knives in my tool kit, right? I'm, in the kitchen and I still need that knife kind of thing.
Which knife would it be? Which knife? It's the little one? It's the one for fruit that nobody uses?
It'd be like the butter knife. Not the steak knife. No, but really so yeah. And then, we obviously use that engagement to add to their score. But then, of course, then we do kind of like a campaign attribution thing on the CRM, so we can track if anybody part of that campaign becomes part of an opportunity. But I love that question because I was literally going to go back to opportunity creation with you, Geordie, in terms of what you're hearing from your customers on how do they actually track attribution from the webinars they do with you all the way to opportunity creation. And then maybe, I don't know, if you're able to share some stats, like such and such vendor of this size saw, I don't know, 30% increase in opportunity creation from webinars or something like that. It would be cool to hear those stats.
Yeah, I think most are using it as first touch, right? So they're all doing a first touch model to try and make sure that they get credit for things. I think when it comes to opportunity creation, most organizations that we work with are fighting over it constantly, to try and figure out who should be, taking credit for this. And I think part of it is like we've seen some marketers really wrap a lot of training around the leads that they're handing off to SDRs so that they can increase their odds of opportunity creation. So for instance, when they run a program, they will talk to, let's say they're running a webinar program. They will talk to the SDR teams or SDR management in advance and say, here's what we're doing. Here's what the messaging is. Here's the deck. Here's the one sheets. Here's the handouts that we're going to use. Here's the polling questions. Here are the follow-up scripts that we recommend you steal something from. And then through all of those pieces, they're able to say, look, we really had an impact on that revenue when it did come through, because look at all the things that we did to help make sure that it went from, MQL to opportunity. And I think that's good. I think it shows, obviously the organization will benefit because everyone will, see an improved level of when they call out on those or they follow up on those, they'll be able to speak in an educated way about what it was that the prospect did. And that's going to have, I think that goes beyond just, I saw you downloaded quote unquote our ebook or whatever, right? But I think it's more powerful to say, I noticed you mentioned, or you filled in a poll or whatever is where you get this information. But we noticed that you indicated that you're backing up, this many terabytes of data per week when you attended our webinar on how to protect your data against XYZ. How is that going? Right? I mean, that's a lot better conversation than just, did you read it or did you watch the webinar? So I think that the more some of the really sophisticated marketers that we work with do a lot of pre-education work between marketing and sales to make sure that their leads don't die on the vine, that they're credited properly for the work that they put in, and then also that the company wins. They win the deal.
Yeah, they actually get ROI from this thing that everyone maligns as a waste of time, or not everyone. Most marketers are doing webinars and believe in webinars and in getting your brand and your story and engaging with an audience. So, but any lead gen mechanism, right? Like a survey, like, I don't know, lead gen forms, like there's all sorts of ways, it sounds like, to build like personalization as well as alignment, which is Maria's favorite thing, I think, sales marketing alignment, to make sure that, like you said, nothing gets forgotten by the busy SDRs. We've also had in the past some success having our, even if it's not them doing it personally, but having our speaker do the outreach after the webinar, right? So you maybe have someone idea. Yeah, maybe you have someone, you have an SE talking as opposed to an SDR. An SE who knows their chops, knows their tools, their tech stack, just went kind of technical dive. Sales is still in the title, but whatever. And they follow up and they have a lot more, I think, cachet with an audience, especially if that audience just spent 30 minutes with them, listening to them speak.
That's a great point. I mean, even on our events, the moderators have a better result in terms of getting people to register for something new, because people know the moderators. They don't know us as marketers as well. And so when we put things in the moderators' names, it has better success that way too, in terms of attracting registration. Yeah. I think it's a great idea.
Geordie, what about topics of webinars that you see have the most success on your platform? Is it thought leadership top of funnel? Do folks like to see what's under the hood and they want an actual demo of the platform?
So I think this has actually got a few pieces to it. One, it depends on your goals, right? So if you're trying to pack the house because you need to hit a certain number of leads for the quarter to, fill the pipeline and meet your individual metrics, that's fine. The broader you would go in topic, the more chance that you'll get a larger audience. If you are focused on opportunity creation and needing to go down funnel a lot, then the more niche the topic. So say, for instance, folks who are looking for all about ransomware, right? That's kind of broad. Obviously it's a crappy topic. Just when you think about it, like, that's pretty broad. That's too broad. But
all about ransomware from A to Z.
All about, exactly, right? So that versus how to remediate, ransomware in retail environments, that kind of thing. And you're going to attract the folks who are interested in that, and hopefully select out the folks who aren't a fit for that. Now, is it easy to get 200, 400 people for something hyper niche? No, it's pretty tough. And the question is, would you want to, or are you okay with 50? Are you okay with 100? Where, they're exactly the ICP you're looking for, who have the pain that you're talking about on the webinar. I think so. It's a balance. You have to find out, your goals versus with how broad you go. Hopefully that makes sense.
Makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. It's like, Sometimes it's like, you hear of this and marketers do it. Sometimes you just need to put an activity in a certain, like on a date.
Yep.
Like, oh, we don't have anything to do this quarter. Like, we need to get some stuff going. Like, we can't just sit around on it with our hands under our butts. We need to like go do activities and activations. So sometimes it is in some cases, and maybe even if you're doing like a brand thing, which we didn't talk about, you might want more as opposed to less. Or you might want to target, you're doing an ABM play on, 50 retail organizations and you want to try and capture those audiences. So it really depends. Can we talk about another controversial topic? And
Sure.
I love this topic because I've failed at it every single time I've tried it. Content syndication. I've never done it well. Maria, have you done content syndication well? You're a queen of demand gen, so I feel like you might have.
I've had both types of experiences. I've had like big, massive, like, wow, this is just getting us spam, and people like submitting crazy things on the demo request form or on the content form. And then I've done other ones where we've gotten some really good leads and have gotten some opportunities. So it depends, I guess. And of course, yes, it depends on the content and whether it resonates. It depends on the audience. It depends
We can't
on
say
how strong your brand is. It depends, on your SDRs. It's just like all of these, political answers. Like, well, it depends.
So the truth is everything depends, right? Like, that's like, you and me know it, like, and Geordie, also, you're on this podcast too. We all here know that everything depends, but that doesn't make a good show. So pick a line, pick a controversial opinion now.
Because I always think like we're always missing something from the strategy, but we have to go forward with it anyway and then hope for the best, right? Like, not always, okay, most of the time. So it's either like, well, this is the only gated piece of content that is, kind of good that we could use, whether it resonates or not. Let's just use it because it's all we have. And then, we're pressured to get leads because, again, old school, and all we want is, what I mean? So there's a lot of like different factors that could hinder the success of a content. And I don't know any marketer that has that perfect world where everything checks off and they're good.
Yeah. Geordie, what do you think? Because do you also do content syndication?
Yeah,
do
we
offer
do.
that? Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
We like 100,000 leads a year or more of content syndication. I think
Geordie's just like, we just do like a bajillion of this actually.
But that's
like,
not a lot compared to. There's a lot of bigger players out there. But I think that. Okay, so I have some thoughts on this. One thing, I think it depends on who your company is, and it also depends on who your goals are, or what your goals are. So, we're back to it depends, but it really does depend. So you look at the reviews on G2 for a lot of different content syndication providers, you see the same comments over and over again. My SDRs called the person. They said they didn't recall downloading the asset. Therefore, the company that we worked with to outsource content syndication sucks. You're like, okay, yes, we have done studies with our audience to find out how many pieces of content they are consuming per month. Well over 80% are consuming 10 or more pieces, they say, per month of written content. Are they going to remember yours in particular? Will they admit that they read it because they know where that conversation goes? So there's a few factors there. But I think that the larger your company, there's a halo effect. So let's say that you are Dell, right? Just as an example. And your SDR phones up a content syndication lead and says, hey, it's Geordie from Dell. I'm just wondering how you enjoyed our ebook on cloud migration. And their comment is, sure. But, while I have you on the phone, we've got an RFP coming up for XYZ. Boom, that becomes an opportunity and hopefully gets kicked up the can. And then they go, wow, that content syndication program worked really well. Did it? Or did you just happen to call and you had a brand that was familiar and they were ready to talk to you? So I think there's a lift that happens when you're a larger organization that you don't get when you're a smaller organization, right? Where you have to say, we are, pretty small, but hopefully we made it a kick butt piece of content and you really enjoyed it. You might get lucky that way. More often than not, you'll find that people don't remember, even if they did read it, or they won't admit it to you. However, there are different goals here. One of the goals could be pipeline generation, which I actually think content syndication is not super great for in general. I think that it's great for building a list that you can nurture to the point of generating pipeline, which gives you a place to start. But the folks that are picking up the phone and dialing for dollars on ebook downloads, they're going to have a low win rate. And I think that's where a lot of this conversation comes in about, we didn't get an ROI and content syndication sucks and lead gen sucks and all that kind of, it's like, yeah, but that's depending on how you go to market with it, that's probably to be expected. What
right.
a lot of organizations do.
You knew this, right? Like, hello.
Yeah, exactly. But what a lot of organizations do is they look at it as a list building exercise. In some cases, they're like, we're going to build a list of folks that we can nurture and market to over time. And that, gradually after 3 or 4 touches, maybe we'll be able to have a conversation with them. Those ones do well. The ones, though, that immediately call on the list before nurturing don't typically do as well. So unless they're big. If they're big, they might get lucky just because everybody knows who they are. And hey, Geordie from Dell's calling me and we already deal with Dell. And so on and so forth. So I think there's a role for it to play, but I mean, everybody can get their own Zoom info account and pull names, right, as a list building exercise too. So what you do in some cases get by a side benefit of working with an outsourced partner like us or whatever, where we're doing content syndication to our audience, is it's us reaching out with the content as a third party, whereas maybe they wouldn't have looked at a first party cold email send, but maybe because we have a warmer relationship with them, they will, download the asset and engage. And then, we'll pass those leads along to you for nurture, or you can count them as an ABM touch point or whatever you're doing in your scoring. Right.
That's true.
Yeah. So those are kind of my condensed thoughts on content syndication.
There's a lot more, that could be coming from you, Geordie, on this. I could tell. Maybe some expletives.
No, I think it's good. Yeah, I think it's good. I think it's definitely something that fits into a lot of plans.
Yeah.
But I do think that you need to nurture what comes from it. And there's different kinds of content syndication. Like if you outsource to a partner that does website widgets, right, with white papers in it, and they run that to their web traffic, the kind of stuff, Maria, that you said that you see in terms of spam entries and all that kind of thing is often because web traffic is messier, dirtier, it doesn't fit cleanly into your, field mapping and Marketo. Whereas when you get into, email campaigns where a partner is emailing out an offer, they already have a tremendous amount of data about that recipient already. And so they can augment the data and make it nice and clean and fit in well there. And I think that's the other big takeaway, is that email invite traffic to anything, whether it's a webinar or an ebook or whatever, is far cleaner than what comes in off the web. Mm-hmm. And there are different content syndication providers who have a different model of how they collect data and where the traffic source comes from. And so you may see a variation in quality there, but that should also be reflected in the pricing. The pricing for those leads should be lower, you would hope.
Let's talk a little bit more. I want to dig into the data and how you all use that to, create audience segments or different email segments for your customer based on the content offer that they're offering from a content syndication perspective. And then do you use like engagement data? Do you use intent data to get laser focused? How does that work?
Yeah, so you can augment with intent data. The stronger the intent signal, sometimes we find you can use a million platforms for intent data, but oftentimes the really strong stuff, the people have already bought. So you can back that down a few notches in terms of the strength of the signal so that you're getting...
That's interesting. Yeah, that's like,
It depends on freshness, right? Like it depends how fresh the data is. So say, for instance, with the Zoom info, their intent data, they have 2 levels of offering. One is like a weekly signal, and the other ones are quote unquote real-time signal. And I'm not sure about 6sense and Bombora and how they're doing it, but often the freshness, they'll even tell you the higher the signal, the greater the chance that they may have already purchased. So anyway, that's off topic, but I thought it was an
That's
interesting data
really
point.
cool. It's off topic, but that's awesome because I don't think a lot of us think of it that way. We think, the higher the signal, the more likely they're out there and looking for a vendor. That's actually really interesting.
Also off topic, you know that grocery stores compete on freshness. Like most grocery stores are trying to instill the brand. Sorry, this is so off topic. I'm such a piece of garbage on this podcast sometimes. Grocery stores, they compete on freshness. That's the brand they want. Every grocery store wants you to think. Now you know.
You know what? I'm going to add to that I did read.
Oh wait, you know stuff about grocery stores? Tell us.
Yeah, we'll go here. I did read that. I can't remember if it was Fred Meyer or I'm Canadian, so we don't have these brands. But in the States, the Fred Meyer or Kroger, whoever it was, determined that putting a fresh fish bar right next to the packaged fish bar would double sales. They sold the same amount of packaged fish, but they doubled their sales by selling also fresh fish. So go figure. That's all I have to say about that. I'm not sure what the takeaway is.
Wait, what grocery stores do you have in Canada? And then we'll get back to content.
This is sounding very fishy, you guys.
Oh, man.
Oh. Please, editor, please edit in the badum.
No, please don't edit that.
And also a little fish floating by.
Okay, sorry. That was very Canadian. Okay, we were talking about content syndication, and you were saying there was a freshness score and a lot of intent data, which is actually really cool to think about. Yeah. Would you think that even in cyber, I mean, I guess most of our products that we sell are not like sold in a day or sold in a week. I don't know. Yeah, Maria's like shaking her head and nodding, which I don't know what that means. So I wonder if that freshness score is anything like maybe if we can rely on it. I don't know. Anyway, so content syndication.
But with segments, I think back to your question about segments. So segmenting by install base, that's a good one, right? Who's running Oracle? Who's running, Veeam? Who's running any particular platform? If you're a partner of those technologies and you're trying to sell into that ecosystem, that install base data is going to be really interesting for you. When it comes to intent, I think it's really powerful to just ask people, are you in market? So for instance, on the reg form, right? So like, are you currently in market? Most won't tell you, but some will, and you can even build that into a drip sequence, right? So you can choose on the landing page, choose your own adventure. If you're currently not in market, go here. If you're currently in market, access these resources, and then watch people fork themselves off into each individual bucket for you, right? That's real intent. That's not just, I visited an article about ransomware. This is like, I'm a big fan of choose your own adventure type lead gen. But of course, the volumes go down. The volumes go down when you do that, right? Though. And so people then, well, if I can't get 600 people who said and chose that path, what's the point of doing it? And it's like, yeah, but when you look at the funnel and you look at how things actually shake out at the end of the day, you close 6 out of 2,500 leads that came in during the quarter. So yeah, the 6 matter. Get those people and, market to them differently than you would, and this is not new. I mean, this is a splitting the funnel concept and all that kind of stuff. But I think as you go down market, you definitely need to realize you're going to run into less volume, but that's where the gold is. Not everybody's out there to buy.
Yeah. But a lot of people are pivoting to that mindset. I mean, you said it pre-COVID, post-COVID. Mm-hmm. Nobody's going for the volume anymore. Everybody's going for what's really likely to turn into an opportunity. And that's actually an amazing tactic to do that digitally. And I think we can also do that on our own landing pages, right? Across certain assets. I love that. I'm stealing it. Thank you.
There's an amazing book actually about this. There was a company, I think it was called Ion Interactive, and the guy, they sort of pioneered messaging around the choose your own adventure segmentation style digital flows. And they wrote a book called Honest Seduction, which, whatever, I guess it was provocative. But anyway, but it was an excellent book in terms of talking about how to get people to tell you what it is that they're interested in and what their intent is, what their pains are, all of this kind of stuff, so that you could present them with a customized journey that would better reflect that. So highly recommend that book. I think the guy's name was Scott Brinker or something like that.
Awesome. We're going to link to that book in the show notes. Maria, ask a question. Sorry, Geordie, it's not you. It is the end of the day here. It is like
it's all good.
5 o'clock.
No, I mean, I do have a question. So, Geordie, content syndication we covered, webinars we covered. You shared some really, really cool tactics and ideas that we could optimize either of those channels. I did see that you just rolled out a new sort of product and service, virtual roundtables. I don't know if I'm naming it correctly, but talk to us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, for a long time, our clients have asked us for something a little more down funnel. They needed those numbers, and they needed, like a lot of our webinars will bring in, 800 to 1200 leads, and that's great. And, there's gold in there, but they also wanted something that was a little more down funnel. So we just went out to the audience and asked, who's in the market for IAM, or who's in the market for endpoint security solutions? Let us know who you are, what your budget is, what your org size is, et cetera, all the usual ICP stuff. And we're going to put together an event online, and we're going to bring in several vendors back to back and let them present. You'll go from Zoom room to Zoom room while they pitch you, and you get to ask questions in a small environment. So say 6 to 8 people in a room. So you get more than that, then people don't feel comfortable asking questions. So keeping it small. And that we actually did that the first time not too long ago on data protection. And it went extremely well. Like in a small environment with cameras on, people will share a little bit more than they would on a webinar environment. And so, and of course the vendor that's coming on knows that everybody who's there is actually in market and a lot about their environment before they come on. So the vendors that did well on that brought in an SME as well as a sales rep to present. And the sales rep loved it because they got to sit in and do 3 meetings back to back with 6 buyers at a time. And the SMEs loved it because they got to answer questions. And oftentimes the sales reps and the SMEs work closely together, and they really enjoy working together on a sort of 4-legged sales call basis. And anyway, I'm kind of rambling here, but it worked out well. And we think it might help people get a little closer to some down funnel stuff if they need pipeline like now.
I'm always surprised that this is something I totally believe it now, but I was always surprised that this is something that people want, right? Like I would like to be in 3 back-to-back sales calls about products, right? And I'm the buyer. But if you are buying a solution and buying a product, it's so convenient. It's so easy, and you get to just probably grill the companies, which is always fun. It's always fun to grill the vendor that you're looking at.
Yep.
And you're with other people, and you could all grill them together. And also, I had Mary Yang told us this. Mary Yang, CMO of 6 Sense. So I'm totally name dropping her. Not 6 Sense, the ABM tool. 6 Sense, the security company. She had said a while ago that a tactic that she had done before that buyers love is getting all your competitors, if you're at a large event, getting all your competitors together with you and doing a demo showcase, basically. So, which is and you hate that. As a marketer, you hate that. You're I despise this concept. They're my enemy, even though it's just business. Who cares? But buyers love it. Buyers love easy access and looking under the hood and being able to conveniently, which is what these roundtable webinars probably provide, conveniently look at some solutions all in a row, so they could just apples to apples compare.
Yeah, and that's why we created the Megacast and EcoCast and Virtual Summit series of webinars that we do, where we bring the vendors in, but we get them to present back to back instead of in a round table format on those larger ones. And nobody's allowed to slam the other. They're not allowed to directly reference a competitor by name, which keeps everything civil. Audiences hate that. They hate when competitors go into bash mode on each other because it's not a productive conversation. And so doing those back to back with, 6, 8, 12 vendors, which we've done like 7 hours, like bang, bang, bang. And they're like, great. Now I don't have to go to a trade show. Now I don't have to, travel to get demos of each of these products on a back to back basis. We thought at the beginning when we started doing them, we did one a quarter. Now we're doing one a week. And the demand has not died off. And in fact, this is another point that I want to make just about webinars that I think just might be an interesting data point. We are not seeing webinar audiences drop off. So everybody's like, webinar fatigue. We're not seeing it. And yeah, so I don't know if that just means we do a really good job of it, or if, we've got the right topic mix, which I think obviously probably has a lot to do with it, but I don't think that the fatigue issue is a huge problem. Anyway, get off my soapbox on that one.
Maria was vigorously nodding her head.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think that there is fatigue. I mean, a lot of people still work from home, even though we can now return to the office, which means you have maybe a little extra time since you're not commuting 2 hours to actually sit through more webinars to learn. Everybody still wants to learn. And in cybersecurity, they're always challenged with the next new threat and the next, challenge in making sure, their security posture is always strong. So there's always something to learn. So, yeah, I would agree with you.
I was just looking up, here it is. We had some data points, and I thought this might be interesting for cybersecurity folks who have multiple responsibilities inside an organization. So obviously there's a lot of people who that's just what they do is InfoSec, but we talked to our audience and we said, how many roles or hats are you currently wearing inside your organization? 39% were wearing one hat, 29% were wearing 2 to 4 hats, and then 31% were wearing more than 5 in their organization.
That's insane.
So obviously this will skew toward, the smaller organizations are going to have people who are responsible for more stuff. But I think this is actually a really important data point that, when you're talking to people, that this is not all they do, right? And to try and speak to them and imagine being that person and what it feels like to have that many jobs to do or that many areas of responsibility that you're on the hook for. Of course, we all want to speak to the CISO, and that's great, but there's a lot of folks out there who've got to be drowning, and the more information that we can bring them in a succinct way, the better they're going to do. And I think that'll continue to have high value for them.
Awesome. That's true. How can it's not about us and how cool we are. It's not about how awesome our products are and how our founders are so cool. Our founders are cool. It's not about that. It's about helping people be able to do their jobs better, to keep the companies, organizations, and country safe, and all of us safe too. So it's a cool industry to be in. Well, I think, Geordie, it's time for our game. We are going to end with a bang. We are going to play a game. The game is, Maria, do you want to explain the game?
Sure. So both Gianna and I will take turns in guessing what you would be doing career-wise if you weren't CMO at ActualTech today. And so we'll call it CMO in cybersecurity because technically you pretty much are, right? Just a different vendor type.
Mm-hmm. Pretend, but yeah.
Yeah. and then you'll tell us how horrible we did, or whoever was closest to what you would actually, be doing, or what you dream to do if this isn't your dream career. I think that's probably the best way to word it. Okay, cool. Mm-hmm. And the rules are we can't.
You'll never guess.
Yeah.
No, we're going to guess.
Surprise. And the rules are we can't guess what you've done previously, right? So we can't look at your LinkedIn and be like, whoa, he's done, public speaking and he's, I don't know.
Geordie, have you had any secret career that you've hidden from us on this call? Were you like a restaurateur and we don't know about it?
Besides working at Dairy Queen? No. We're not talking teenage careers. Okay. No. I think... no, I haven't had any mystery careers. Everything has been marketing and sales. So I used to work in infrastructure sales, which had a huge benefit in understanding tech, which then translated over to marketing. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. Who wants to go first?
You go first. Sometimes
All right.
I feel like whoever goes first gets better luck. So I'll give you this one since you've been losing a lot lately.
I have lost almost every game for 2023, and it is 9 months in. So it's been a great streak for me. I should buy a lottery ticket. So, Geordie, I happen to have had one extra phone call with you, and therefore I know slightly more about you.
Ooh,
and I know
come
that
on.
you're I'm going to mind the dregs of any conversation, anything I know. So, you mentioned liking choose your own adventure. You mentioned camping. You're going camping. Camping is fun. You live in Canada. Canada has supermarkets. All of these are combining to being you would open a knockoff version of Meow Wolf's grocery store exhibition that's currently in Las Vegas. You would open one in Canada, and it would be called like Bark Cat or something, and you would manage that. And the reason all those things I just said combine is because grocery store, of which I totally want to keep asking more questions about grocery stores, grocery store, and like a dungeons, like you're a like a Dungeons and Dragons like master if you own one of these things, because it's basically a really cool like in-person exhibit where it's a grocery store but it's in another dimension, so there's all these secrets and people go in and explore. And I hope that made sense to the listeners who have no idea what the heck Meow Wolf is, and also to you, Geordie, because I have no idea if you know what
Never heard
is.
of it.
Oh God, I'm
fun.
definitely gonna lose.
Yes, you are. I mean, you lost me there.
Sounds amazing.
I lost everyone.
All I can think of is, gosh, as a busy mom and wanting to be in and out of the grocery store to get what I need, this sounds like a nightmare.
It's like an experiential art exhibit, and I just think you would take that concept and put it into the Great North where you live.
Okay.
With fresh fish.
Yeah.
Fresh.
Yeah.
Okay, my turn. Geordie, you give me this calm, I don't know, patient, like sort of vibe. And that makes me immediately think elementary school teacher. Because gosh, those people are heroes and they probably need all the patience in the world to deal with elementary school kids. So I'm going to say you're a teacher, or you would be teaching. What are you waving at?
I'm raising my hand because I would like to request a do-over for my answer.
Nope.
Please. Okay, I'm going to talk over Maria. So I would like... I'm going to look, Maria, you've won this whole freaking season of 2023. Fine. Okay. Fine. So I'm going to simplify what I said. Geordie, you have a very calm demeanor. So I think you would be a Dungeons and Dragons master, which just simplifies what I said.
Okay. So how horrible did we both do?
You're both pretty far off, actually.
We told you we'd win and that we'd secretly like deduce it.
Well, he did say we'd never guess, so now I'm very curious. Okay, Geordie, what would you be doing today? What's your dream job?
If I wasn't doing this, I'd probably be in a sales role, I think.
No, you can't choose sales.
Super boring. I can't choose sales?
No, but that's what he likes. I mean, you can't tell.
Fine, but neither of us could guess sales because you were in sales.
Yeah.
So.
All right. You know what? I have never ever thought about this.
You would be doing sales if you were a game master, and then you probably would technically be doing sales if you were a teacher trying to convince the kids to pay attention to what you're trying to teach them. So, I mean...
Yeah, and you'd be selling them like SaaS solutions to the 4-year-olds.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, there's no crazy like. First off, congratulations, Geordie, for loving your job this whole time because like kudos to you.
Well, yeah.
If there was anything in the world that you could be doing, we're like going to drag this out of you. If there was anything in the world that you could be doing and it couldn't be sales, what would it be?
I think I'd probably be a laborer from my wife's garden. I think that's probably, for the most part, she's got a lot of projects on the go out there, and I think I could help with that by just moving things from here to there. I think it'd be pretty good. I like
That's so cool.
just
I love
spending a
that.
time outside and sort of watching her do amazing things in the back. So
There you
I
go.
think that
Aw.
would be my preference.
Love that. We like that better than sales. We like that
Yeah.
answer better. Thank you.
Me
Yeah.
too. Yeah, now that I think about it, I think that works.
So which of us won?
I'm not big on Dungeons and Dragons stuff like that. In fact, even board games.
You're like
I'm one of those
you're like
people.
offended. You're like, why did you think of that?
When people come out with the cards and the board games after dinner, I get a deer in headlights look. So I think probably Maria, I'd be closer.
Thank you.
For
Thank you very
sure.
much. Thank you.
Nicely done.
Slow clap.
Gianna, maybe next time.
Oh God, it'll never be for me next time. I'm just.
Although my wife did look at your profile, Gianna, and she said, bees. She likes bees too.
I do like.
And I
bees.
said, yeah. Yeah. So that's cool.
I should have said that.
I think we have that in common.
All right. Well, Geordie, thank you for being on this episode. We were a little, I think, more rambunctious than usual, and we had a lot of fun. How can people reach out to you and learn more about you and what you do? ActualTech Media, if they choose. Where do people find you?
Yeah, for sure. So obviously we're lead gen sponsor for the Cybersecurity Marketing Society. So you can reach us at actualtechmedia.com/CMS for everything about that. I also have a podcast, Tech Marketer Live, that you can find at actualtechmedia.com and subscribe there. And we talk to all kinds. I think we have to talk to both of you now. I think we have to flip things around and interview you guys as well.
That.
So, and on LinkedIn.
Thank you. Yeah, we'd love to come on and bring the controversial topics in tech marketing.
We'll see who we can tick off. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for listening to this week's episode of Breaking Through in Cybersecurity Marketing. If you want to be on the show, send a note to podcasts@cybersecuritymarketingsociety.com. Long URL, but get you there. We both hope to see you. All three of us hope to see you in Austin in December. Come to Cyber Marketing Con. We currently have 200 people registered. So come and be our 201st, our 300th, our 400th friend in cybersecurity marketing. We can't wait to see you there. And of course, leave us a review if you love this episode, to be clear. Leave us a review, a 5, 6, 7-star review. Give us a nice comment if you choose. It really helps a lot. And we'll see you next week, next Wednesday.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everybody.